Hello and welcome back to another episode of Stat Chat Sports, a podcast where I talk all things sports. I'm your host, Johnny Patronis. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we have a very special episode today, where today I'm going to be giving my thoughts and predictions on the first round of this year's college football playoff. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in depth into all the matchups, all the players, all the statistics about the matchups, and I'm going to give, the team I think is going to lose, I'm going to give them, their side and, why they can win, and then I'm going to give the side to the team that I think is going to win. So basically, it's going to be, for example, one team's case, and then why the other team will win. So, I'm very excited for this episode. I just want to quickly, before we start, I'd like to apologize for my very extended absence in terms of making full episodes. It's been over a year since I've made a full episode. I've really missed the long-term episodes and the long episodes. So I'm very glad to be back. Very excited for this episode. And let's get right into the predictions. So as I said, how I'm going to do this is basically we're going to look at every single first-round college football playoff matchup. I'm going to be giving the preview for each team, the statistics for each team, and I'm going to start off with the losing team, their case to win, and why I think they could win, and then I'm going to show why the team that I picked will win. So both teams going to get an equal case and an equal fight at the game. So with that said, let's get right into it. So the first game we're going to be starting with is the number 12 ranked, the final team to get in, the James Madison Dukes, heading to Eugene, Oregon to take on the number 5 ranked Oregon Ducks. The James Madison Dukes finished the season 12-1, winning the Sun Belt Championship and making their first ever college football playoff appearance. Led by quarterback Alonzo Barrett III, the Dukes are averaging 37.3 points per game and almost 450 yards per game, including a mesmerizing 245 rushing yards per game, which ranks in the top 6 in the nation. Not to mention their shutdown defense as well, which was amazing all year, which allowed just 15.8 points and 247 yards per game this year, allowing just 76 rushing yards per game, second in all of FBS. Also, not to mention, Oregon could be missing 2 of its top 4 wide receivers in DeCorian Moore and Gary Bryant Jr., both questionable with injuries. So if Oregon is missing some of the engines of its offense and James Madison's defense is clicking and Alonzo Barrett is, just playing the right way, James Madison could have the little tiny advantage that it needs to, pull off this absolute Cinderella upset in Oregon. Now, I hate to be a party pooper, but as solid as James Madison was in the Sun Belt this year, you gotta look at the team that they're playing. A Power 4 Big Ten team with elite athletes and a much deeper roster than a Group of 5 program. The Oregon Ducks finished at number 5 in the final college football playoff poll, just 1 spot away from a first-round bye. But even though they didn't get the first-round bye, Oregon still had a very impressive regular season, with its only loss coming from the hands of eventual number 1 Indiana in Week 7 of the college football season. Dan Lanning's squad had some close calls along the way, though, edging out then number 3 Penn State, who was, as we all know, awful to finish the year, in double overtime in Week 5, and squeezing past Iowa by 2 points in Week 11, winning on a game-winning field goal. However, every other win for the Ducks was by at least 2 scores or more, which is very impressive to say the least. Oregon is led by redshirt sophomore quarterback Dante Moore, who threw for 24 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions this season. James Madison also has not really seen a defense the caliber of Oregon's this season, with the Ducks allowing fewer than 15 points per game. In fact, James Madison has played just one Power 4 team all year, when they lost 28-14 to Louisville in Week 2. So that shows they lost by 2 scores to Louisville, and there's no telling what in the world's going to happen when they play a defense like Oregon. So, there is no telling how this game's going to go. So, while it would be a very cool and great Cinderella story for James Madison, I don't see Oregon winning by any less than 3 scores. So give me the Ducks to roll the Dukes in Eugene. The next game we're going to be talking about is what could potentially be the best game of the first round of the college football playoff, when the number 9 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide head to Norman, Oklahoma to take on the number 8 ranked Oklahoma Sooners. So let's talk about Oklahoma's case first. For starters, Oklahoma has not lost a football game since October 25th, when they lost to the Ole Miss Rebels at home. But since then, they've rattled off 3 straight ranked wins versus Tennessee, Alabama, and Missouri before taking care of LSU in Week 14. The Sooners' success is largely due to their 7th ranked scoring defense, allowing just 13.92 points per game. Brent Venables' team leads the nation in sacks with 41, averaging over 3 sacks per game, while also holding the nation's 5th ranked rushing defense, holding opponents to 81 yards per game on the ground. So that shows James Madison over here is second in FBS, holding teams to 76 rushing yards per game in the Sun Belt. So just picture that with Oklahoma's rushing defense holding SEC teams to 81 rushing yards. That's just absolutely insane to think about. An elite pass rush that can also smother the run game is a lethal combo for opposing offenses and an aspect that Alabama must improve on from its last outing against Georgia after its running backs combined for just 21 yards in the SEC championship. The Sooners also lead the nation inside the red zone, going a perfect 32 for 32 in the red zone and being the only team in the country to have a perfect red zone scoring percentage. Not to mention, Alabama may be without their lead tight end in Josh Cuevas, as well as other key players such as defensive lineman LT Overton, giving the Sooners holes in Alabama to definitely be able to exploit. Now, I will admit, I am filming this on Friday, December 19th, just a few hours out from kickoff of this game, and I had Alabama losing all week. I had Oklahoma beating them. I figured that Oklahoma beat them in Tuscaloosa, so they should have no problem beating them in Norman. But that was before I saw what might be the craziest college football stat I've ever seen in my life. The last time the Alabama Crimson Tide lost to the same team twice in the same season was, I'll let you get your guess. Go ahead, think of it in your mind. The last time Alabama lost to the same team twice in the same season was in 1893, when they lost to the Birmingham Athletic Club twice, in 1893. So it's been 132 years since the Tide fell to the same opponent twice in one season. Alabama is led by its high-powered passing attack with Ty Simpson under center. They're averaging over 270 yards per game through the air, which is 4th among all the teams in the college football playoff, behind Ole Miss, Texas Tech, and Miami. They have 2 big playmakers on the outside in Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard, who are a handful for any secondary with the speed that they have. On the defensive side, the Tide's strength lies in their secondary, allowing the 6th fewest passing yards per game in the country at just 157. The Sooners also don't hold the most explosive pass attack, averaging just over 200 yards per game. In fact, the first time Oklahoma and Alabama played this season, Oklahoma quarterback John Mateer passed for just 138 yards. And it's very safe to say that that number will need to be much higher this time around. The Sooners also own the worst offense in the college football playoff, in my opinion. They haven't scored more than 2 offensive touchdowns in a game since October 25th. Because if anyone remembers, when Oklahoma and Alabama played, Oklahoma had like an 86-yard pick six. Put it on the screen right now.
Covered in bounds. So
yeah, that was close too. Because if it were, oh, there's an interception on the first play thereafter. Eli Bowen down the sideline. He may go. Ty Simpson back there. Can't tackle him. Touchdown, Eli Bowen.
And I mean, that play basically won Oklahoma the game. So yeah, the last time that Oklahoma had 2 offensive touchdowns in one game was October 25th. Having a top 10 defense along with some late game heroics lifted Oklahoma into the playoff with big wins against ranked Tennessee, Alabama, and Missouri. The Sooners also average only 26 points per game, the fewest by a 10-win team in the FBS. They're also scoring only 21.5 points against SEC competition, ranking 11th in the conference. Also, Oklahoma is 0-4 in the college football playoff in their matchups, and I just don't see them picking up their first W this year. With that said, give me the Tide to roll in Norman and send the Sooners home. The third game that we're going to be talking about in the first round of the college football playoff is the number 11 ranked Tulane Green Wave heading to Oxford, Mississippi to take on the number 6 ranked Ole Miss Rebels. The Green Wave took home their second American title this season, defeating North Texas 34-21 in what was basically a win and you're in game for the college football playoff. Tulane is led by BYU transfer quarterback Jake Retzlaff, who threw for almost 3,000 yards this season, while leading the FBS in rushing touchdowns by a quarterback with a total of 16 rushing touchdowns. In the passing game, the Green Wave are a difficult team to kind of game plan against, as they don't necessarily have like a number one option on their offense like almost all of the other teams in the college football playoff. Tulane has 5 receivers with over 400 receiving yards and 10 different players who have caught a touchdown, making it difficult to decide who to try to limit in the game. The Green Wave also know how to cause turnovers with 15 interceptions this season, which is third in the college football playoff behind Texas Tech at 16 and Indiana at 17. So being only 1 and 2 interceptions behind the number 4 ranked and number 1 ranked team in the playoff, pretty impressive for Tulane, I can't even lie. Not to mention, Ole Miss is basically a giant question mark right now, as we really don't know what to expect or how their offense will run, or how their team will run without former head coach Lane Kiffin. So we just really don't know what to expect from Ole Miss. And it's sure to be a very tough game for Tulane in front of the Rebel crowd in Oxford. And Tulane will need, by far, its best performance of the season to stun Ole Miss at home. Now, in all honesty, I probably should have started with this, but this is a matchup we've already seen this season when we saw the Rebels pummel the Green Wave 45-10 in Oxford. Not only did the Rebels win by 35 when they faced the Green Wave earlier in the year, but they also outgained them 548-282 in total yards. And also, Tulane had absolutely no answer for Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss, who threw for 307 yards with 2 touchdowns and added another 112 rushing yards. On top of that, former Ole Miss defensive coordinator and now head coach Pete Golding, his defense played one of the best games of the season against the Green Wave, holding Tulane quarterback Jake Retzlaff to 56 passing yards and 5 of 17 passing through the air. Also, Ole Miss finished 27th nationally in third down conversions, while Tulane was 73rd, showing a key, very important offensive strength for the Rebels. Tulane will also likely be without Bryce Bohannon, the 4th leading receiver on the Green Wave, as well as linebacker Dixon Agu, who has 36 total tackles on the season, including a pass deflection and a fumble recovery. I like Ole Miss to take care of business pretty easily at home, but I would not be shocked if this game is closer than we all think it will be, with how much of a question mark Ole Miss is right now, and honestly how much better Tulane has gotten throughout the season. But overall, I like the Rebels to win pretty easily and pretty comfortably at home. So give me the Ole Miss Rebels to take down Tulane to meet Georgia in the Sugar Bowl next week. And lastly, the 4th and final matchup of the first round of the college football playoff that we're going to be talking about is the number 10 ranked Miami Hurricanes heading to Kyle Field to take on the number 7 ranked Texas A&M Aggies. Now, as a diehard Florida State fan and an avid Miami hater, it really pains me to say Miami versus Texas A&M rather than Notre Dame versus Texas A&M. Mario Cristobal's team closed out the regular season on an absolute tear, winning by an average of over 31 points in the last 4 weeks. The Canes also have the 6th best scoring defense in the country, allowing just under 14 points per game. Cristobal has a wall of a rush defense, holding teams to under 3 yards per attempt and 86 total rushing yards per game on the ground. And while it's not quite as good as the Aggies, Miami has the 10th best third down defense, limiting teams to a just 30% conversion rate on third down. The Aggies also could be still without their star running back in Le'Veon Moss, who is questionable with an ankle injury he's been dealing with since about mid-October. While Texas A&M has blown out a lot of its opponents this year, it hasn't really faced a defense like Miami's. The Aggies offense did put up 41 in a win against Notre Dame, obviously, earlier this year, but it hasn't played any of the SEC's really, really good defenses, like Oklahoma, which we mentioned earlier. They haven't played Alabama, and they also haven't played Georgia, which are like the three of the juggernauts of the SEC, and Texas A&M hasn't played any of them. Also, Texas A&M quarterback Marcel Reed at times has a tendency to turn the ball over, as he has thrown 10 interceptions this year and losing 1 fumble. I think the main X factor in this game for Miami is true freshman wide receiver Malachi Toney, who put up 84 receptions for 970 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns in the regular season. If Miami can essentially force feed him the ball, the Canes could definitely have what it takes, and it pains me to say, but they could definitely have what it takes to pull off the shocker at Kyle Field. Now, Texas A&M, similar to Oklahoma, holds one of the best pass rushes in the country, tied with the Sooners with 41 sacks on the year. The Aggies are sacking the quarterback on over 10% of opponents' pass attempts, the highest in the country, led by senior defensive end Cassius Howell, who is tied for the second most solo tacks in the nation with 11. The Aggies also hold the best third down defense in the country, as we mentioned earlier, allowing a ridiculously low 22.7% conversion rate on third down, almost 6% higher than second place Indiana. Mike Elko's offense is led by sophomore quarterback Marcel Reed, who is a proven nightmare for opposing defenses with his ability to extend plays with his legs, being a very, very good dual threat quarterback. His connection with wide receiver Casey Concepcion is one of the best quarterback-wide receiver duos in the nation, very similar to Carson Beck and Malachi Toney. I'd say it's a little bit better, but people have their opinions. Also, while Marcel Reed may struggle with turnovers, as we mentioned, Carson Beck has thrown just as many interceptions as Marcel Reed, also with 10 on the season. I just think Texas A&M's offense is too good for Miami, and the Aggie defense, which, as you just heard, is amazing just all around, will make Carson Beck struggle just overall. And I just really think if Marcel Reed is at his best, I like Texas A&M to comfortably take down the Canes and take care of the Canes in College Station. So give me the Aggies to roll the Canes in College Station. That'll do it for my round 1 picks and predictions for the college football playoff. If you enjoyed this episode or just my picks in general, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. If you agree or disagree with any of my picks, be sure to comment your picks below. I'd love to see what you guys think is going to happen in round 1. Stay tuned for my round 2 thoughts and predictions, as hopefully I'll be able to make those next week. But until then, I'm Johnny Petronis, and thank you for listening to this episode of Stat Chat Sports.